Hello and welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast live. This is your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. And I'm Dr. Benjamin Alter.
And I'm Dr. Susanna Alter.
And we are streaming live in our Facebook group, Empowered Healing Naturally, as well as on Instagram at Alter Health. So happy to be with you guys wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome. And if you're new, if it's your first time stopping in, just wanted to remind you who we are. I'm Dr. Benjamin. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and so is Dr. Susanna. And we are on a mission of spreading information, but also inspiration to empower you in reclaiming your radiant health, reversing your disease, promoting longevity, doing all that you can to take care of yourself. And we are looking forward to diving into a really, really important topic today. And that is one that we often overlook, and it's the topic of breathing.
Yes, breathing is a big one. Our life truly does depend on it. So we want to make sure we're doing it optimally. And before we dive into really unpacking breathing and how to breathe properly, we just wanted to remind you that on December 2nd, we will be launching our free online series called the Medicinal Living Mini-Series. And this will be happening through our Facebook group, Empowered Healing Naturally. So this is, like we said, totally a free workshop for you. We will be covering all the foundations of health. We'll be covering some breath as well. So if you like what you heard today and what you've been hearing in the past, you would be a great fit for the Medicinal Living mini-series, and we hope to see you there.
Yeah, we're going to cover so much good stuff from physical health, nutrition, plant-based eating, to things like breathing, and also really focusing on mindset and the mind-body, brain-body connection, which is so important in understanding to take care of yourself. But now, on to breathing. Maybe we should start with a breath.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So, and obviously we're all breathing all the time. That's the amazing thing about breath, is that it is a automatic or autonomic function in your body. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to question it. You just do it. In fact, you need to do it. And if you were to try right now to hold your breath, you couldn't do that for longer than your body would tell you, no. You can hold your breath, you can override the automatic breathing signals, but your body is still in charge. That being said, we can use our mind, we can use that capacity to override physiology to kind of biohack. I hate that word, but we can kind of hack our physiology. And breath really is one of the most direct ways that we can really access and shift and modify our physiology in any given moment. So let's talk about, diving right into the proper way of breathing. Or actually, maybe we should point out some of the improper ways of breathing that we notice when we're like walking down the street or meeting with anyone, any clients or something like that. It's really common for people to, first of all, breathe in and out through their mouth, like panting like a dog. And obviously we are more prone to do this when we're exercising because our mouth is bigger than our nose, like in terms of the airway capacity. So we can breathe more air volume in through our mouth, but our nose is designed to filter air, and also the nose has a way of pressurizing air in our system to increase the oxygenation of our blood, which is really important. But a lot of people do breathe through their mouth, which is, in part due to the fact that a lot of people have chronic nasal congestion, stuffy nose and runny nose and rhinitis and things like that. And the unique kind of paradoxical thing is that one main underlying cause of this kind of stuffy nose syndrome that so many people experience is actually breathing through the mouth. So breathing through the mouth can cause a stuffy nose amongst so many other things. So a lot of people therefore get into this cycle of needing to breathe through their mouth because their nose is stuffy. But in fact, it really takes some mindfulness and some persistence in retraining our bodies to breathe through the nose. And just a quick little hack for those of you who are walking around with a stuffy nose, really one thing to dramatically, instantly unclog your nose is actually to take a breath in and hold your nose.
Ben is holding his nose.
I'm holding my nose for those
aren't watching the video.
So hold your nose, and as you do that, you're building up carbon dioxide in your airways, or in your blood rather, and you're also building up nitric oxide, which is a powerful molecule that is capable of promoting relaxation and dilation of your airways, and also kind of opening up of those airways, which happens instantly. And so if you are struggling with a stuffy nose that's inhibiting you from breathing through your nose, then you're going to want to do that regularly to open up your nasal passageways. So that's one quick little tip to promote nose breathing, which is super important for so many reasons. Like I said, people who are mouth breathers tend to be more susceptible in terms of developing things like sleep apnea, because, let's face it, a lot of people, we have control, at least more control over how we breathe when we're awake. But our habits and our tendencies obviously kind of can go to the wayside when we fall asleep. So a lot of people, might breathe through their nose during the day. But if they really don't have that ingrained habit in their physiology, then they can be more susceptible to mouth breathing at night, which can lead to sleep apnea and really just severely diminished sleep quality in general. So a lot of people might not have full-blown apnea, but because they are mouth breathers, they don't oxygenate their bodies well enough during the night. Their O2 in their blood can drop significantly at periods in the night, and that actually just inhibits our ability to experience restfulness and rejuvenation when we're sleeping, so we can wake up feeling really lethargic, really tired, really run down, just due to the fact that we haven't been breathing properly through the night. So that's an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to say, Susanna?
Well, the other thing that I find interesting is that even when kids grow up as mouth breathers, it actually affects the development of their facial structure and their jaw. And so we see more of a kind of a thin, underdeveloped jaw structure, which can lead to then crooked teeth and more of a need for braces. And that, will affect the airway as well. If the jaw is improperly formed, then the airway is naturally going to be more narrow, which will then kind of perpetuate this mouth breathing pattern.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So obviously, it's never, but that being said, it's never too late to change the way that we're breathing, right? But it does have a huge impact in terms of how we're developing from a young age. So if you are a parent and you do have children, be mindful of how your children are breathing. And there are ways to actually retrain the body. And one way, which is kind of controversial and maybe shouldn't be totally, 100% embraced right off the bat, but a lot of people are starting to tape their mouths shut. And that's when they sleep, and even during the day, just to kind of bring a little bit more mindfulness as to how they're breathing. And obviously, the mouth can obviously be used for breathing as well. And we do use the mouth for breathing when we're exercising, when we're speaking, when we are eating. We tend to breathe through the mouth a little bit more maybe. But the mouth really is intended to eat and to chew food and to speak, and air is intended to go out. We're not really designed to breathe in through our mouth. The nose is really much more suited for that. Like I mentioned before a little bit, the nose has kind of this built-in filtration system, which is not present in the mouth. And what I mean by that is all of these little hairs and mucus in the nose, in the nasal passageways, which have the capability of blocking exposure to toxins or pathogens or viruses or things that can make us sick, and that can kind of cause mucus, and then we blow our nose, and those things come out of us rather than being ingested into us and causing an immune reaction. So the nose and our breathing passageways in the nasal cavity is kind of our first line defense. And we want to be using that defense. When we're just breathing in our mouth, we can be exposed to all of these things, and we don't have really that mucogenic capability, the ability to produce mucus and filter out toxins and pathogens from our mouth. So that's really important in terms of just like distinguishing nose breathing versus mouth breathing. Breathe through the nose. I know it might not feel natural if you have been breathing through your mouth for decades, but it's really powerful. It's a really powerful practice. And I might just add also, one thing that I've been experimenting with a little bit more so as kind of an athlete is breathing through my nose during exercise, which makes exercising much more difficult, but it's really a great training mechanism for any athletes or performers out there. If you're on a training run, breathe through your nose at least part of the time, and when you do that, you build up what is known as kind of carbon dioxide tolerance, and the ability to withstand more carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. And that is really an important part of building endurance. And it's, without getting too deep into the biochemistry, which really does interest me, but when we build up carbon dioxide in our blood, that actually builds up acid. And that, it kind of, when it develops a respiratory acidosis, it's called. And that promotes more of a metabolic alkalosis, or promotes more of an alkaline environment by our metabolic production to kind of offset the respiratory acidosis. So we ultimately become more alkaline when we breathe, when we develop more carbon dioxide in our blood. It's kind of counterintuitive. It's a little paradoxical, but trust me on it. And also, it's just a powerful way of controlling your physiology, ultimately. So nose breathe and build up that carbon dioxide tolerance.
Yeah.
Anything else you want? I'm just talking, so
Ben,
you can.
Ben is really in the spotlight today because he knows so much more about breathing than I do.
I don't mind being in the spotlight, but you're just kind of sitting there. So
I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
The other pattern that we do see also commonly of breathing that does not really support optimal oxygenation is shallow breathing into the chest, just chest breathing.
That's what we're going to get into next.
Yeah. And so I'll let you talk about it. Expert breather. I'll be honest with you all. I am still working on this.
And I'll be honest with you, I am a breath snob. I'm a breath snob. I literally do watch people breathing like they don't know how to breathe all the time. And it is such an important, powerful thing. And I know we're all on our own journey. We're all living our own process. But That being said, when we do take mindful responsibility of shifting our habits and behaviors, we can have dramatic results in our health and our well-being. And really just one easy, but maybe not so easy example of this is how we relate with our breath and our breathing. Mm-hmm. So first thing, hopefully you understand it really clearly, nose breathing. Super important.
And we actually just got a really great question about nose breathing. Should it feel effortless to breathe through your nose? I doubt I have allergies, but always felt that there is some effort involved. And
that's true. Especially when you are not a classic nose breather, when it's not 100% of the time that you're breathing through your nose, it is going to feel a little bit more effortful. And the reason why that is just simply due to the fact that your nostrils are smaller than your mouth. And evolutionarily, it's really interesting. I kind of geeked out on this relatively recently. Our nostrils as human beings have actually been getting smaller, which is really interesting. If you think about kind of those ancient human skulls, they had really big flared out nostrils, and they used them to breathe predominantly 100% of the time. There's some evidence that suggests that's the case. So why that's the case, that we are kind of evolving to breathe more through our mouth, I don't know. I would kind of think that it's kind of a de-evolution of human beings, and just due to the fact that maybe I don't know. There's a lot of theories, but I'm not going to go any deeper into that.
You've got some nice big nostrils.
I do, and I do have nice big nostrils, and but yes, to answer the question, it should feel a little bit more difficult to breathe through the nose, and especially when you're running. I just went for a run this morning. Half of my run was breathing through my nose, half of my run was breathing through my mouth. And when I was breathing through my nose, what naturally happens is the heart rate goes up. We're working harder. That CO2 is building in the blood. That is natural, and that is actually a good thing. So, yes. You should feel like there is a little bit more. It's not quite as easy to breathe through the nose.
At the same time, I would think that when people consciously start practicing breathing through their nose at a resting state, that should become more comfortable. Because I know for me and for many other people out there, at a resting state, breathing through the nose does not feel effortless. It feels very second nature. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. But good question. It does become more natural. But if I were to sit right here, for example, and take a breath through my mouth versus take a breath through my nose, there's a little bit more tension, or a little bit more resistance, I think is the technical term. In any case, kind of shifting the conversation to the diaphragm, to depth of breathing, which is another area where people are just simply breathing wrong. They are not using their lungs. The lungs are incredibly voluminous. They're about 6 liters of air in human beings, and most human beings are only using maybe 0.6 liters or maybe a liter, just a little bit. But our lungs are shaped like, they get deeper, they get more wide as we go deeper into our torso to the base of our diaphragm. And the diaphragm drops when we take a breath in, obviously. The diaphragm constricts relaxes when we take a breath in.
And for those who don't know, the diaphragm is a muscle that basically helps. It contracts when we breathe in, and it relaxes when we breathe out.
Yeah, so when you take a breath in, what you're doing is essentially creating negative pressure due to the contraction of your diaphragm, and the air should be going all the way to the base of your lungs. Your lungs should be filling from the base up, like from the ground up, rather than from the top down. And most people do fill their lungs from the top down, and what that means is that they are just simply underutilizing their lung volume. They're underutilizing their lung capacity, and a lot of stale air, pathogens, toxins, energy of all sorts, if you will, gets stuck and stagnant at the base of our lungs. But when we are filling our lungs from the base up through diaphragmatic breathing, by breathing through our belly, then we are constantly circulating that air through our lungs. So that's a really important practice, both from a kind of detoxification, respiratory health point of view, but also, interestingly enough, the diaphragmatic breathing we know is really a powerful way of turning on the parasympathetic nervous system. And just speaking real briefly about the parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system, we talk about this all the time. The sympathetic nervous system is the branch of the nervous system that revs us up. And it's interesting that anytime we take a breath in, whether it's through our nose or through our mouth, we are revving up our nervous system. And then anytime we take a breath out, whether it's through our mouth or through our nose, we are revving down the nervous system by activating the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. And a lot of people focus, just breathe in, and then their exhales are really kind of short and forceful. But the best way to breathe is to allow your inhalations to be natural. Like no sucking in air, just like allow your lungs to fill once again from the base up. And then your intention or attention should be focused on the exhalation, the full exhalation. And really, a healthy breathing pattern is spending more time, in the exhalation phase versus the inhalation phase. It doesn't really matter how much more time, but, if you were to count, maybe 4 seconds inhaling and 7 or 8 seconds exhaling. That's kind of a good pattern, but we don't really recommend that you count your breathing. That can be a good way of kind of just training and bringing some mindfulness, but don't worry about it when you're living your life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it has a big impact on the nervous system, as you just described. And you mentioned briefly that it's important for detoxification as well. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the lungs are one of the major detox organs. I mean, we breathe out tons of carbon dioxide every day, but we also breathe out all sorts of different metabolites, toxic metabolites that the body no longer needs and is getting out of the body. So like what you said, if we're not breathing properly, that those metabolites, they can actually get kind of stuck and stagnant, just staying in the lungs. And so yeah. So
regardless of what your health issue is or what your goals are with your health, whether it's just living a healthy detoxifying lifestyle or whether it's reversing some symptom or disease, you're definitely going to want to focus on how you're breathing and bring some mindfulness and attention to how you're breathing to optimize that. Because the way I see it is, in our world today, we are just kind of inundated with stressors of various sorts. And one way that we can really powerfully counteract and dissolve that stress, there's a couple ways, but physiologically, practically, one way that we can totally nip it in the butt is just taking a nice deep exhale. I was going to say nice deep breath, but focusing on the exhale, because when I say take a breath, everyone focuses on the inhale, and then, like I said, what that does is just rev up the nervous system more. So really understanding how to tone down the nervous system with the exhalation. But it's interesting that the breath is like it's like a volume knob on your nervous system. You can modulate your breath to turn up your kind of, to increase adrenaline, to increase the stress response to, for example, if you were going to you watch a swimmer or an Olympic weightlifter or a sprinter or any sort of competitive athlete, before they perform, they are breathing deeply, they are breathing through their mouth, they are focusing on the inhalation, they are revving up their nervous system, and that's so that they can shoot off and run really fast, swim really fast, lift the weight, do whatever it is. But let's face it, most of us need to turn down the knob, turn down the nervous system. And that the way to do that is focusing on the exhalation, breathing through the nose. So that kind of sums up the topic of breath. Obviously, we can there's all sorts of practices and techniques that I try to avoid talking about, because I think that, we should really just be mindful of how we are breathing moment by moment. We can integrate these practices, alternate nostril breathing, or kind of the holotropic hyperoxygenation technique, or whatever it might be. We can, do those things when the time calls, but we should really be focusing on how we are breathing the 99.9% of the time that we are, unconscious of how we're breathing. Bring some awareness to it.
And I just have to say, it's hilarious that Ben said he's a breathing snob, because he's also quite an anomaly. I have never seen a human being with as strong, oh wow, that was our dryer, with as strong of a diaphragm as Benjamin Alter. When he breathes in, it's like there's no other room in his torso for all the other organs.
I'll have to take a video or a photo or something of my contracted diaphragm, because honestly, it's something that obviously just in the last 10 years or so, I've really been consciously studying the physiology and the psychology of breath. But throughout my whole life, I've used my breath really, I've been aware of the power of my breath without really understanding the power of my breath. I've been aware of it. So I think I have been doing various breathwork practices, consciously for 10, 12 years or whatever, but not knowingly for my whole life. So maybe I have just been building this diaphragm. So yeah, it's a thing. And anyone can, I know that I don't think I'm an anomaly.
Okay.
But wrapping up our conversation today, we just wanted to leave with an announcement or two.
Yeah, just another reminder that if you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you love what you're hearing, the conversation can continue between episodes in our Facebook group, Empowered Healing Naturally. And so we recommend that you come join us in Facebook to really, up level your understanding of holistic health. And like we said in the beginning of this episode, we will be hosting our Medicinal Living mini-series in this private Facebook group. So just another reason to come over and join us in Facebook.
Yeah, we're so excited about it, and it's going to be great fun. And to register officially, we've got a link on the screen, but for those of you listening auditorily, it's a long hyperlink, but community.altered.health/medicinal/living-mini-series. Medicinal Living Mini Series. So you'll find it, or just head on into the Facebook group and we'll point you to where you need to be. But thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a comment, a happy face, a thumbs up, whatever it might be. And share this with someone who is in your life who might not know how to breathe properly. So we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Peace and love. Until next time.
Bye for now.